Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. David Reese, and I am the Chief Academic Officer for Defined, and I am excited to host this webinar today. This collaborative webinar from LIFToFFS and Defined will explore how schools can help students introduce career exploration earlier and connect learning to real-world experiences. Our agenda today will involve getting to know each other through the panelists, a presentation from Liftoffs, a sharing of Defined and the Defined website. We're excited to have a teacher who's going to share a project that she's been working on with her students. We're going to talk about a summer training opportunity and then question and answers. And just to let everyone know, if you have any questions throughout the presentation, if you would, just put the questions in the chat. And at the end of the session today, we will go back and we'll be happy to answer any of the questions that you may have. So again, thank you all for joining us. We're excited to have you. And I just wanted to share this slide as we get rolling and as we think about our students. It's always important to help them answer the following questions when they're sitting in class. Why do I need to know this? And when am I ever going to use this? I don't know about all of you, but in my classrooms, when I've been teaching my students, they are always asking these questions and they usually have quite a bit of sarcasm in their voice. But when we can answer them, it's really powerful and it helps them. So, with that said, we all know that rural students deserve access to the same career exploration opportunities as their peers in larger communities. Together, we're going to explore how districts can expand these opportunities for every student and build stronger pathways from classrooms to careers. Excuse me. What I'd like to do is begin with the Liftoffs for Learning Collaborative. Their vision involves how career exploration can begin earlier to inspire curiosity and broaden student awareness of future opportunities. I would like to introduce you to Britini Walz, who is an educational leader and instructional services director at CESA 4. They are driving innovative AI-powered transformation in K-12 systems. She helps lead the LIFToffs initiative, partnering with rural districts to redesign learning through personalized instruction, inquiry, durable skills, and future-ready experiences. And her colleague, Jennifer Riggle, who is the Director of Student Services and Prevention and Wellness at CESA 4. And she is the Chief Innovation Officer of the LIFToffs Learning Collaborative. She helps lead work in schools to redesign learning through engagement, future-focused outcomes, and relevant technology-enhanced experiences. Thank you, Britini and Jennifer, and I will ask you to take over the screen and I'll stop sharing. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Reese, and thank you to Defined Learning Team for having us today. My colleague Jenny is not on yet, so I am going to be at the helm today, controlling the slides as well as talking to you briefly just about liftoffs and kind of our journey to get where we are and why this partnership really truly elevates what we're working on with schools from student engagement to those relevant learning experiences, career connected and durable skills, personalized learning. So all of the things David mentioned that we were working on, really how does this partnership with Defined amplify what we're working with schools on? If you want access to the slide deck, not only are you going to get this recording afterwards, but feel free to scan a QR code as we get started today. So when we think about who we are and what Liftoffs is, really kind of nuts and bolts to it. Our mission is to really look at what does the system need in order to change for that innovation to happen. It's a dynamic, student-centered learning experience where we really start to question how are we putting pressure on the student engagement experience? How are we ensuring that we are maximizing every human's potential from any child to any staff member that is within the system itself? and really starting to begin to question how are we transforming education to do that and to meet the needs of our current students that we have no idea what the world is going to look like for them. And so that was really kind of our driving mission. That's really centered around true collaboration, true problem solving skills, and just really career connected learning at its finest. Kind of how we started way back in 2023 when there was a group of superintendents that got together to really start to question what's possible in education and really starting to examine the fact that the current system that we have is not broken, it's just simply outdated. And it really needs a massive overhaul. When we look at businesses who have to overhaul themselves in order to stay relevant and to meet their current demands, what does it look like when education kind of asks those same questions? So these were really three driving questions that we started with is the current educational system acceptable to you as a leader, to you as a teacher, to you as a parent, a godparent? Who is to blame for that lack of student engagement when you walk by classrooms and you see heads down, you see kids on phones, you see that distractibility and that just like passive participation from our students? And then, how does public education stay relevant when our future is so uncertain? And really, when we think about that global competitiveness, we always like to say that unfortunately, we feel like public education is at its blockbuster moment. And what I mean when I say that is Blockbuster really thought they were too big to fail. They didn't know how to innovate. They didn't know how to systems change to meet the demands of the shifts in technology when we come to streaming, when we came to at-home movie rentals. And unfortunately, Blockbuster is no longer in service. So working with these superintendents back in 2023, and some of the superintendents were starting to question this long before 2023, but realized the workforce is changing and the workforce is actually demanding graduates who have those durable skills that can be placed into any job situation and setting and actually rise to the challenge. We met with about 90 different business leaders from all across different industries to start to examine these problems of practice, to say, what are your HR department's worst nightmares? How is that showing up in your recent graduates that you're hiring, whether it's recent college graduates, recent high school graduates, and really starting to form this partnership of starting to examine how can there be this collaboration to really examine what are those durable skills in this rapidly changing world. We know that student wellness is an all-time low, and this generation of students is asking and demanding a completely different set of student experiences within the school day. So not only do we have our Gen Zers and our Gen Alphas really, really looking like they are different. They're very different than all of us on this webinar. And so they're really demanding that the school system meets their needs. And same thing with staff retention and satisfaction. So that was within our local construct of conversations and partnerships. And what we really found is that globally, 71% of our nation, of our Americans, are actually like demanding that public education and education in general changes. 71% of Americans believe that the K-12 education experience should be about practical skills. It should be about those basic academic skills, becoming career prepared, right? That career connected learning, the demonstration of character and durable skills. So what does that look like and what are our families choosing? So nationwide, what we've seen is a complete boom. So because of that, the lack of satisfaction across the nation within our school systems, a lot of families are starting to examine other alternatives or other methods for receiving their instruction. And so what we've seen is a complete boom in the online schooling and online learning market. You'll see by 2030, it's projected that the online schooling market is projected to almost reach $700 billion in annual revenue. So thinking about like that complete shift, and this isn't just nationwide. You'll see that the scary, harsh truth is that by 2030, because of this boom, they're showing that only 50% of students will be educated in the public school system. So these are all problems of practice that are nationwide that a lot of our rural districts were also facing. Because prior to the 2024 school year, you'll see that school choice just wasn't necessarily something that was affecting some of our rural communities. And you'll see just like that stark change in the state of Wisconsin to show what was happening in 2020 or 13 versus 2024. So this idea that school choice or parental choice is rapidly expanding. And so really what we're up against is this idea that there are so many other options for families, especially within our rural communities. In our rural communities, they may not have the private school setting. They may not have that charter school option or micro school option, but they do have a virtual school option. So you'll see just per pupil count that rise in virtual school attendees, which means a massive increase in the amount of vouchers going towards these schools. So you'll see just in two of the 62 available options to Wisconsin families, as registered by the DPI, you'll see that the Academy of Excellence out of Milwaukee pulls in about $40 million of public voucher funds, as well as the Rural Virtual Academy is about $26 million. So it's just in those two virtual academies, about $66 million. And this is while there was a voucher cap. Next year, as we know, the Wisconsin voucher cap is going away. So again, currently this is what our vouchers are looking like in the public school. And this was, again, just another problem of practice that some of our rural superintendents kind of converged together to start to question and to start to examine that the system itself is really under pressure. And that they're fighting constraints and they're fighting these pressures from multiple different angles. It's not just the student choice and the ability to have that flexible learning space and the flexible learning environment. We have record numbers of districts that are going towards referendums and unable to pass those referendums. We have the amount of student funding or per pupil student funding dropping to a record low of 26th in the nation. So there's just a lot of constraints and a lot of things that are happening to our school systems. And so how can we like step back and say, right now is the chance for structural change to happen within our public school setting? And so really this was a joint collaboration between 15 school districts that started to say, we really need something that's different. We can feel it. We can feel this pressure. We can feel all of the things kind of happening to us. So how can we start to be innovative in the practices, not only within the student experience, the teacher experience, and then the structural change needed for the system? And that's where LIFToFFS was kind of born. It was born out of a conversation and a collaboration between these local districts, their leaders, their teachers, that really started to question what else is possible and how can we shift some of those experiences for students and for our educators. So in fall of 2024, LIFToFFS began its pilots into classrooms. And then again, continuing through that 2024-2025 school year, we really started to question, what does a model LIFToFFS classrooms look like? Because LIFToFFS is not an AI-powered platform. It is more or less a philosophical shift in dreaming, in envisioning, in building what's possible for public education to really meet the demands of our current workforce, to meet the demands of our current generation alphas and our Gen Zers. And so that's where this first pilot came from. We had some teachers that said, what's possible if we use an AI-powered learning platform? So we partnered with Khan Academy, we partnered with eSpark, we partnered with Alex Math. So a lot of these online learning platforms to deliver some of our tier 1 instruction. That was like the first chunk of our kind of experimental pilot, was saying, okay, is it possible for students to receive a high quality educational experience through this AI-powered platform, whereas the rest of the class time is really devoted for deepening our learning? What happens when we reimagine the classroom experience? If our bell is 45 minutes, how are we truly going to put pressure on student engagement to really ensure that our students are invested in the drivers of their learning, and no longer are we okay with passive participants? And so what we found from that first year is that the model is shifting, it's working. Students are able to pace their own learning through that powered AI powered platform. The teachers feel more confident. They're perceived as coaches. They're redesigning what that chunk of time is where students are not on that platform. They're redesigning what does it look like? How often are kids on that platform? How long? What are we using it for? Is it a station rotation? Is it for direct instruction? And so, really thinking about how the teachers are really seen as the professionals here to say what is possible in your classroom and how can we deepen the learning experience. And really, that's where we are kind of taking this journey forward and how we're looping in defined learning. Because really, what we started to notice is that every district is in its own phase. Every district is equally unique. Different system pressures, different communities, different teachers, different curriculum, and different resource needs. And so, as we took a step back, we really decided we needed to refocus and think about how our teachers were receiving some of those shifts and some of those tools that are needed in order to make this possible. It's really easy to say, here's a platform, go do. But the experiences, the support that teachers and the system need and students need in order to be present in this new way of learning. And so what's really different about the LIFToFFS learning classrooms is that really students are the drivers of their learning. Every child is challenged, right? They're all getting what they need when they need it. It's no longer a one lesson fits primarily no kids in the classroom. It's no longer the teacher staring out into blank faces, lecturing at maybe one or two kids that are passively taking notes. It's truly about really thinking about the student experience and that every student deserves success. And really thinking about how we can take academic and durable skills and intentionally interweave them together so that it is true career connected learning with that heart and center of student-centered focus environments, whether that's inquiry, project-based, challenge-based, problem-based learning. We're really looking for the educators in this experience to be the experts of that student learning and redefining what success looks like for kids. So moving away from that traditional classroom of that pace and that work completion and the teacher leading the conversation with worksheets and kids sitting at their desks, but really, really starting to think about how can we ensure that learning is personalized, that we're looking at data to make those decisions. We're engaging in students solving real world tasks, whether that's using building thinking classrooms, whether that's just looking at inquiry-based learning and more research, more collaboration. And really ensuring that everything comes back to that question that Dr. Reese started with, right? Kids are going to ask the questions, why is this relevant? What am I going to use this? Really centering that as kind of the stage when we start to think of what's possible in a classroom. So really thinking about going from this, which some of you may be doing this right now because it is totally against what LIFToFFS would do in terms of a lecture-based, but imagining going from something looking like this, which many of us feel as a former administrator walking by classrooms. Maybe you're seeing this, maybe you're feeling this when you walk in and do your observations, to a class that's very much robust like this, that's hands-on, that's future-focused, that all children are receiving those academic and durable skills, as well as interweaving those emerging technologies in. And so that's kind of what we did, where we are within the LIFToFFS kind of mission is to really start to develop teacher strategies, teacher tools, teacher instructional methodology supports that our teachers can feel success because we're asking teachers to step in the helm of they're the experts and asking them to move away from that one size fits almost none curriculum. And so really centering ourselves, what we found is that in order, and really this is a combination with working with the American Institutes for Research, is we've really found that in order for classrooms to feel like that busy, like that engaged workplace, that where kids are just thriving and kids enjoy their time, these are really truly the four core experiences that kids are accustomed to getting within our LIFToFFS classrooms is learning personalized. Are there durable skills being modeled, taught, provided students feedback on? Is there authentic inquiry? And are we ensuring that there's global readiness, which is really just that idea that we're interweaving those emerging technologies and making education relevant for kids. What we found is teachers are like, great, but how can I do this? And so we started to say, well, we need to like tease out what does personalized learning look like? So we came up with these four criteria or four attributes of durable learning. Again, teachers were like, I need to see it a little bit more. So then we really started to question, like, within the current landscape of our educational like outcomes and what we're striving for teachers to be like, are the current constraints of our educator effectiveness or our evaluation systems, are they also breeding innovation for our teachers? And what we have found is like, no. We need to rethink the overall like ability for teachers to reflect and refine their practices so that we can really push teachers from more of that foundational, which everyone starts here. I don't even think as a classroom educator I was even foundational here. I was really this was really designed to push teachers and help them reflect and co-create an experience where we're seeing classrooms that are truly thriving in that innovative category. So really what's next? What's next is exploring what is competency-based education look like, truly rethinking how are we reporting grades? How are we reporting student success to parents, to community members? How are we joining arms with the colleges and the polytechnical, the tech colleges to say, what and how can we ensure students are coming into your systems ready for a future that we have no idea what it looks like? So really truly redefining the student success story and saying, how can we center ourselves around the things that AI is really bad at? And yet humans need even more time to wrestle with communication, to get better at collaboration, to get better at resiliency and critical thinking. And so that's where like the phase four of liftoff starts to examine how does it look to rewrite the school day for a child, to say we are going to provide base academic competencies and skills, but we're really centering ourselves around this pathway idea, like pathways for curiosity. How are we bringing in inquiry learning, emerging technologies? How are we interweaving in those durable skills so that students can see themselves as successful learners that are maximized to their potential, that are just they love the student experience and that engagement. And so that's really where the partnership and why we're so excited to host this webinar today with Defined Learning is because a lot of times this is easier on paper to say that we want to find a way to bring in more performance-based assessments, more inquiry learning, more hands-on, career-connected styles of being in a classroom. But in order for us to move the ship of public education, we need these strong partnerships to imagine what's possible. And that's really where this partnership with Defined Learning came in, because we were really starting to explore like these AI powered platforms, but we've realized it's not about the platform. It's about everything else you're doing as a part of that student experience to really leverage those high leverage technologies that enhance the student experience, that enhance the LiftOff's classroom, but really Defined makes all four of these core experiences come to life. You'll see here in a moment when Nikki shares, when Toni, one of our amazing educators in a LiftOff's classroom, these four core experiences show up handedly, like lockstep within the Defined Learning projects, within their experiences that they provide for not only the students but also the teachers. And that's again why this partnership and why this webinar is so exciting. So I'm going to turn it over to Nikki to share a little bit about the Defined Learning platform that you'll see here.
Thanks so much, Brittany. And thank you everyone for having me and letting me share a little bit. I am a former educator of 15 years. I taught special ed and elementary ed before I came over to Defined, and I've been with Defined for 4.5 years now. I'm a partnership manager for the Midwest and some of the Southeast as well. And I'm going to just do a really high level overview to kind of show you how this all ties together and how we support with Defined Learning to really, do exactly what Brittany shared, make learning relevant for students, tie in that real world component to really provide the why behind what students are learning to help them have a better future and to guide them in their path. and also really target those durable skills, competencies that we're working towards and personalize that learning for those students. So I'm logged in to the Defined Learning platform, and you can see all of the projects are broken up by specific subjects. So it makes it nice and easy for the teacher to be able to find the courses. If you click into math, then you can see you have all of your grade bands to explore. So you can go ahead and choose the grade band that you're working with. I'm just going to go middle of the road and look at 7th grade math. And then your unit outline here is going to be on the side. And what's amazing is we've got all of these projects ready to go, and they are specifically aligned to your 7th grade math standards in geometry. So now as you're finishing up a unit in geometry, you have this great performance-based assessment for the students to really have that transfer of knowledge and be able to showcase that learning, but they're going to tie it in with that real world component. So when the students say, well, why are we learning about geometry? If you're going to be a rain barrel manufacturer or an architect, these are different jobs that actually utilize those skills. So it helps the students really make that connection. Another great piece I can say, especially as a former educator, is the fact that the projects are ready to go. It really helps a lot with the planning and time constraint of being able to embed a project into the academic day. Now you have hundreds of options to choose from, and you can really put your finishing touches on them and save and customize them, or they are completely built and ready to go and assign out as is. We pair up with your LMS, with Google, Clever, ClassLink, so it's all really easy to get set up and get started with the students. But all of our projects are we're very big on audio visual. So the students are going to learn first, what does an architect building a tiny house do to set the stage? And then this is where the magic happens. I love this piece. These are the real world connection videos. So now you're going to hear from an actual architect who talks about how he's using these geometry skills in his day-to-day job to help the students understand why they're learning this and how this applies in that career. There are check-in questions throughout the project that can be done synchronously, asynchronously, and then all of our projects utilize the understanding by design method. That's that UBD framework from Jay McTighe and Grant Wiggins. So the students are given a hypothetical goal, role, audience, and situation for them to step into. So I'll play you a little piece.
Your goal is to help start a tiny house community in or around the area you live. Your role is as a designer, and you will be part of a team of tiny house engineers and architects. You will be informing the public about your new tiny house community, as well as developing a model tiny house. Your audience is the local community and potential buyers. Over the last decade, the tiny house.
So I'll just play you a little piece so you can kind of see how we set the stage for those students. There are script versions for that GRASS model, and now the students are going to go in and they are going to have some choice. So we want to personalize this learning for the students, and so we give product choice options. This project has 2 options. Some of the projects have 3, 4. Our STEAM projects have 5. And this way the students can actually decide, where those interests might lie and what they'd like to choose to create. As an educator, you also, can decide. And if you say, I'm targeting a specific standard or a specific area, we're all going to do the scaled floor plan. So it really gives flexibility, which is really nice. So this one has 2 options. They're either creating a scaled floor plan for that tiny house architect community, or they are actually building a 3D model. Nothing requires any kits or added materials. You're utilizing what you're using in the classroom to create these products, and then the rubrics are ready to go and attached for each of the products as well. So this makes it really easy to know what the expectations are. It makes it easy for the scoring for the teachers, because any rubrics that are scored go directly into a virtual portfolio. So now you have all these great artifacts to show the skills and the careers that the students have explored. So that's just one project in Defined Learning. As I said, it's, aligned to your Wisconsin state standards, but we also are tying in, these competencies and these durable skills, which I'm going to kind of start diving into next. So we have our whole academic library. And then what we do is we further that learning in that pathway and that cluster. So after the students have done some projects in math or science or social studies, they're now going to explore further in this specific pathway and step into the role of one of these careers that they've explored. So in Defined Careers, our sister platform, the students have the ability to do that. So I'm going to play a little piece so you can kind of see what it looks like when they're stepping into the role of the industrial engineering technician.
You are an industrial engineering technician, and your goal is to provide a floor plan and an analysis of machines that will allow a new Amazon fulfillment center to operate at maximum efficiency. And your role as an industrial engineering technician is to understand how the Amazon fulfillment centers operate and what different machines are used or will be used to help the new fulfillment.
So you can see they're getting hired by Amazon. They're stepping into this role in this fulfillment center, and they have to make sure that it's running at maximum capacity on the floor. So they are choosing if they're going to do a floor layout plan or a capabilities of machines analysis. So again, the students have a project to really have a day in the life of activity to step into this role and understand more about this career and if it's a good fit for them. We have a saying at Defined, you can't be what you can't see, and it's so true. And so this is how we want the students to be able to explore all that there is out there that they may be interested in and the different careers that are available in their local community and beyond. So in addition to the projects, we also have virtual internships. We have them in each of the clusters, and these dive much deeper and go even further with some of those durable skills like problem solving, workplace communication, interviewing practice. And the students have a great way to dive a little bit deeper through an internship. We also have specific courses on these future-ready durable skills, so students can work on things like time management, networking, resolving conflict, workplace communication, professionalism, problem solving on the job. And students can even start to explore our mock job board to explore different opportunities that would be in the area close to them or nationwide if they're interested in a specific role or a company. So if the student said, wow, I really loved that Amazon project, I want to learn more about this, they can understand what these opportunities look like, and they can actually do some resume and cover letter practice. They can do a mock application and get AI feedback, and they can do AI interview practices as well.
Thanks for taking the time
So
to
this is a
interview with us
really
today.
cool way
I'll be
where the
giving you a
students are going to use the STAR method to be able to do some interview practice and get real-time feedback as well. And then looking at how this all comes together to track specific competencies and graduation requirements. This is how we are going to do this for a district, for LIFToFFS. So at LIFToFFS, they have developed their competencies, and we want this to come to life, right? We want to be able to track and measure this growth for students and have it be embedded in the work that's already happening and not be an additional thing. So in Defined, we have the ability to build out your unique plan and target these specific competencies and goals for students, be able to track that progress, keep track of whether it's completed, be able to upload supporting files. But what's wonderful is the projects the students are doing already can be aligned to that work. So when you look at that critical thinking goal here, teachers, we have the ability to build a custom catalog where it's your district specific projects, and they know this is the project I'm going to work on for critical thinking that will target those goals for the student. And what you'll notice is the products and the rubrics the students are working on have that additional cell towards critical thinking. So they have the ability to really target those goals and then track and measure those outcomes as well. So as an administrator, an educator, you have the ability to see that cumulative average score, the most recent score, and really see this growth over time. So that portrait of a graduate and those competencies are actually coming to life, and they're not just a poster on the wall. And the reporting features are wonderful. You can drill down to specific students and dive much deeper into that whole plan and each of those individual competencies. And the last thing I'll talk about is our LIFToFFS Wisconsin at Work page. This is really a way that we are wanting to incorporate a full community approach. So this is a newer piece to our partnership that we're really excited about. And this is going to be a site where we are going to feature those local industries and community partners so that students have the ability to see what kind of job opportunities are right down the street from them and discover those different industries and companies that they can explore and work for. So that is, that quick overview of Defined. we're gonna now pass it over. I'll Dave, let you introduce Toni so you get to hear from a teacher firsthand about her experience with Defined.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nikki. And listening to Nikki and to Britini, one of the things that I always think about just to share as we get ready to introduce Toni is the idea of the projects and how the projects are the vehicle for the learning process. And everything we've heard and what really matters for students and for schools, it's all about giving students the opportunity to practice in a safe space. And so I encourage you, as you think about this, to think about that opportunity for students before they have to go out into the world and have to be competent in these skills and ideas. So, with that said, it is now my pleasure to introduce you all to Toni Jahr. Toni is a fourth grade teacher in Wisconsin who is passionate about creating engaging, real world learning experiences for her students. She focuses on project-based learning and helping students connect with their learning in the classroom to the world around them. In this session, Toni will be sharing a mini golf course design project. Sounds very cool. Where students step into the role of designers using math, problem solving, and teamwork to bring their ideas to life. Toni?
Hi. I was actually still just teaching like 15 minutes ago, so that is why my camera was off. So talk about real life in the moment. But yes, I'm excited to share with you the mini golf course project that we did. I think the best way is to share my screen because I have some images of my students and then I can kind of talk about it.
All right.
All right, so hopefully you can see that.
All good.
I'm always thinking about ways that I can make math feel real for my students. So something that's not just in a workbook, something they can actually see that they would use. And that's where the mini golf design project came in. The slides were already done for me on Defined Learning, so I was able to share that with my students, and then I could customize the project. I teach 3 sections of fourth grade, so I have almost 60 students. So I do this 3 times, and it was really cool to see them take this and run with it. So I introduced it as a real scenario. A local campground wanted to add a mini golf course to attract more families, and students took the role of designers. And right away, it shifted from just doing math to having a purpose. They designed their whole. Some of them went over to Canva. Some of them wanted to do it by hand on paper, on graph paper. And then they focused on the angles. So where can I fit an acute or obtuse or right, and which one makes the most sense? And what kind of hazard can I put in so that I could use this acute angle? And then they built their 3D models. So after we did the digital ones, it was actually really cool. They all started like just randomly hanging them on my board. So my whole room was cluttered in 3D models, and I'm done. Can I hang mine up? And so then we kind of went and worked together with stuff that I could find in my classroom, things they brought in that were going to be recycled at home, paper, all of it. I went to my emerging tech lab we have here at Whitehall School District, and I asked for any scraps, any things that the 3D printer, throws out that they don't use. And so they were using like scraps as trees, and we were basically getting our hands on everything, and they collaborated and combined ideas. So it became like they weren't just identifying angles, they were thinking about how the angles affect the movement of the ball and the strategy. And after building, I had them reflect why they chose certain angles, how they affected the ball movement, and what they would improve. So it gave me a much clearer picture of their understanding than a traditional worksheet would. It was projects like this. They're really helping my students see the connections, so that it's not just something we learn in school. It's something people actually are using or create. And when they're with their family now, mini golfing, camping this summer, they'll think about the angles. So it won't just be a worksheet we did. A lot of fun.
That's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing. How we talk about student engagement and just looking at the ownership they're taking, in this. And as we think about career connected learning, one of the ideas that always comes up is asking students what problems they want to solve. In this case, they started solving and then discovered there were a whole lot more problems they wanted to solve. So, Toni, thank you so much for sharing your students, your classroom, and your experience with us. It's much appreciated.
You're
So,
welcome.
thank you. So, with that said, next, what I'd like to do is turn it over to Heather Wertman from Defined. Defined and LIFToFFS is working on a summer professional learning experience. And so I'm going to ask Heather to talk briefly about that. She's the Director of Instructional Leadership and Coaching for Defined. She specializes in developing professional learning programs that promote career-connected, inquiry-based learning through a high-quality project-based learning lens. Heather will be sharing the big ideas for our exciting summer professional learning experience. So Heather, I'll turn it over to you, and I will turn the slides on.
Thanks, Dave. So I get to share an exciting experience that all of you could consider signing up for, and we would love to support you in experiences like Toni just shared with you in real world and everything that Britini shared a little bit earlier. So we have a summer professional learning opportunity for you on June 9th and 10th. It's hosted by CESA 4. The location is still to be determined, but what this is a 2-day hands-on workshop. So it's all about supporting the educator's success that Britini kept coming back to as she was explaining the journey and the path for LIFToFFS. So it's all about learning the purpose, design, and implementation of Defined. It truly is an experience where you'll see changes come to life for that classroom experience for your students and your learners. During that time, during the 2-day workshop, we'll be talking about flipping the pedagogy to that real world and inquiry-based learning. We'll make all those connections. We'll have great discussions, talk about meaningful practices around it. And then we heard a lot about intentionally weaving in those academic and durable skills. So we will definitely experience that and work alongside of you to tie that in. Most importantly, the third one that you see up there is active modeling during this workshop. So you get to experience a performance task through a student lens and through the teacher lens, or I want to go back to Britini's words, almost like a coach, right? Because the students are going to drive that learning and have the experience. So we want you to do that during the workshop too. So you get to see it through both lenses. And finally, you get a lot of individualized exploration time and task planning for your classroom. So we really hope that you'll consider joining us June 9th and 10th.
All right. Thank you, Heather. And Britini and Jennifer, before we offer anybody questions, and just so everyone knows, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them into the chat. But Britini and Jennifer, I just wanted to give you an opportunity, kind of bring this all together for our collaboration.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think our collaboration, it's important to note that it just doesn't stop at K-12. This partnership expands into the universities that we're working side by side with to imagine what a micro-credentialing world could look like. So that partnership invokes Western Technical College and UW-Stout to rethink just the student experience from a pre-K through 16 or 14 lens. As well as tying in those local industry partners like Nikki showed you in our At Works page. So we're excited to continue this partnership and to continue to grow what's possible in the state of Wisconsin and the nation to ensure that we are producing children that not only love their educational experience, but are equipped with the skills that are going to be needed in order to take on a future that we have no idea just what it's going to look like. I am sure there's going to be flying taxis over top of us, within the next 5 years. So, what are those skills that students are going to need to have in order to thrive in that world? And it's really important to note that the DPI has now made this their number one strategic goal in their 25-29 strategic plan, with innovation and education being their number one priority. So our goal as the LIFToFFS Learning Collaborative is to continue to envision what's possible, as well as to break down those barriers and to break down the silos that currently exist within so many of our traditional school structures. So we would be more than happy to have conversations with any of you on today's call or watching this at a later time and the recording, to continue these conversations, to build a think tank of innovative leaders across the nation that are excited about what is possible for the future of education.
Wow. Brittany and Jennifer, I just want to let you both know on behalf of Defined, we are super excited to be working with you all. What you're doing and going to accomplish is just incredible for students and educators around Wisconsin. And obviously, your ideas and model is going to be happening around the country. So thank you so much for your insights. And with that, I do not believe we have any questions in the chat. Heather, Nikki, are we good? I think we've done a great job of explaining a lot of things. And as Brittany mentioned, we will probably have a lot of questions after that. And with that said, as we start to end up, just bear with me for 1 second. What I'd just like to do is, we've shared Brittany and Nikki's emails. So if you have any emails, please reach out. And on behalf of everyone today, I just want to say thank you so much for your time, your interest, your excitement. We're excited, and hopefully we'll have a chance to meet with you and see you in person in June. And just thank you for your time. Hopefully you found this all valuable, and hopefully you have a great rest of your day. So thank you all, and have a good day.